Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a fall DIY video using scrap wood. In this first project, we're going to be using these pallet wood pieces. I made this sign for myself a couple years ago and I brought it to craft events. I had it in my booth. I brought it home because it just doesn't fit in my booth anymore. So I'm taking it apart and I'm going to be using it for projects. So my plan with this first project is I'm going to be using this wood pumpkin that I got from the Dollar Tree last year. I'm going to use it as a stencil. So I'm just measuring how large I want my sign to be. And I think it ends up being around 12 inches tall. So I just bring it to the miter saw, and you saw that I measured all three of them. Well, when I'm actually cutting, I'll cut the first one and then I will use that piece to line up the miter saw before I cut the other two pieces, just to ensure that I'm getting as even a cut as possible, because even though I'm measuring, I may not cut exactly where I need to. So that's just how I do it. Um, Once I get that done, I'm going to sand the pallet wood pieces down. I definitely want to get as much of the white paint off of that one piece. I am going for rustic, so if it's not completely removed, it's okay. But I do take an 80 grit sandpaper to them and then a 120 just to smooth it out. And I do round the edges or the corners of them so that it's not super sharp and it's a little bit softer. So to attach all three pieces together, I am using these two scrap pieces of, I believe they're 1/4 inch plywood pieces, and I am going to be attaching it with wood glue first, and then I'm going to let that sit for about 30 minutes or so to kind of set in place, and then I will tack it together with my brad nailer. And here's my buddy Trigger, always by my side if you guys have been around my channel for a while. So again, like I said, I just use the brad nailer. I do like 2 or 3 tacks on each pallet piece, just an extra way to secure this together. I am going to be using the plan for this is that it can be a leaner, like, if you have like a hutch or a bookshelf or something, but you could always add, hanging hardware to the back of it as well. So that's why I'm definitely securing it down with wood glue as well as the brad nails. So I am tracing out this pumpkin. I'm using this paint pen. It's oil based. I've used the oil based and I've used the water based markers, and they both work great. So I like you saw, I traced it out, and then I am going to paint the inside with this pumpkin paint color by Waverly chalk paint. And then because I'm going for more of a rustic look, I'm not going for like full coverage. I'm going to close to full coverage, but not 100%. I don't want it to look completely perfect. And then I'm just going to be using a couple different orangey brown toned colors to give those lines that a pumpkin has, so that there's more dimension and it's not flat. So I'm using I forget what this color is that I'm using right here, but it's more of like a taupey terracotta. And then I'm using more of a brown here to add that extra coverage. And then once it fully dries, I am going to sand it down just with like 120 or 220 grit sandpaper. Again, like I said, I wanted it to be rustic, so it just kind of softens all of the paint up when I sanded it down, and then it also kind of it also softened the outline from the oil pen as well. So I really liked how it did that. And then to seal it, I'm just using the polyacrylic water-based spray. All I had was clear satin. I didn't have clear matte, but it worked perfectly fine. I didn't want to do like a wax or anything, because if someone wants to have it outside for whatever, for their decor, then at least it'll have the polyacrylic instead of wax. And then I was going back and forth between if I wanted to do greenery for the leaves, or if I wanted to do what I ended up choosing to do here, which is using the sunflower mold by IOD. I'm using the two of the leaves as um, the leaves instead of fabric leaves. So I went back and forth, but I ended up doing this and I love how this one turned out. I decided to paint them, as you can see, before I even applied them to the pumpkin because I was worried that I would get um, some of the green onto the pumpkin, and I really didn't want any of the white to show. So I did that. I made quite a mess on my hand. It ended up working out really well, though. I just touched it up a little bit once I adhered everything together, and I am using Titebond glue. Once it fully dried, I added some clear wax and some black wax to the leaves, and this piece is done. I really hope you guys like this one. For this project, we are going to be making a like 3D pumpkin, if you will. I'm using just scrap baseboard. You can use any wood for this, like 1x2s. You could use the pallet wood from the first project if you have that. Any type of wood that's like that would look really good. I just had these baseboards and I really wanted to give it a shot. I cut all three to the same length. I cannot remember. I think they may have been like 10 or 12 inches. Maybe not 12, maybe like 10 inches tall. And then for two of them, I'm going to be cutting them at a 45-degree angle. So I move the miter saw to the 45-degree angle, and here I'm trying to visualize um, how I needed to place the wood to cut it, because the center piece of the pumpkin is going to stay that full rectangle. So you'll see what I do, how it comes together. So you see here, I have that one cut, and then I'm going to be doing the same thing on the other side. So I had to, again, visualize. I don't ever cut angles. So um, this one took me a few minutes to figure out, but I got it on the first try, and I was super proud of myself. But it is a 45-degree angle, so I'm cutting both of those. And then I am going to leave the color white for this one. So I just wanted to give it a good sand. I soften the corners, the top corners of the two side ones, so that it's softer and it's not a sharp edge as well. And I'm going to give it a good sand. Um, I'm going for rustic and natural looking here. I'm not going to paint these. I do another set that I do end up painting, but what I do next is, because I want these to be able to stand up, I'm going to be drilling holes into each of them so that I can tie them together with twine. So depending on the twine or rope that you use, or if you use ribbon or depending on the fabric that you're using, you're going to cut or you're going to drill holes according to that size. So because I'm using like skinnier twine, um, I'm using a smaller drill bit, and I really want to try these again and make them a little bit bigger using fence board, and then use like thicker rope that you can get from like the Dollar Tree or any craft store, and try it that way, because I love how these turn out. These are great for basically as shelf sitters. Like I want to put one of them on one of my leaning shelves that I have for decor for the fall time, but I want to make larger ones and put them on my front porch. So I'm definitely going to give that a shot as well and make some for a craft event that I have. So for the stem, I have these spindles that came from a table a long time ago. And I've kept them because I didn't know what I wanted to do with them, and I had them and I was like, oh my gosh, these are going to look so cute. So I am just using the Titebond wood glue to attach the spindle to the top, and I'm going to let that sit for a while to to get a good hold. And then from there, I decided that I was going to do leaves again using the clay mold because I just love how that first project turned out. So I again am using the sunflower mold by IOD, and I'm using the larger leaf design instead of the skinnier one for the big leaf, and then I am going to use the skinnier one as well. So what I was going for with this was not to just have it like hanging down. I wanted it to kind of drape over, from the top down. So I molded it carefully so I didn't get any cracks. And then once I had it molded to how I wanted both of them to be, that's when I used the Titebond wood glue to attach the mold to the pumpkin. And I did use painter's tape to secure or hold the molds in place as they dried, at least for a couple hours. I didn't want them to shift at all, and it worked perfectly fine. It didn't ruin the molds. I was a little worried at first if it would, but I didn't use a lot of pressure. So that worked out great, and I was really happy with that. And like I said, this is one of the 3D pumpkins that I did. The other one, I'm using antique wax, and I have a very damp paper towel, and then I'm applying the antique wax and then using that same damp paper towel to wipe off the excess of the antique wax. I I was torn between doing an orange one and then doing the antique wax. I want to do it again and do an orange one, but more of like a rustic orange, not that like pumpkin orange. So I'm gonna do that at some point as well. And then I paint the molds just like I did on the first project, and I also do the clear wax on both of them before I do the black wax so that I have um, an easier time, moving the black wax around and removing any excess black wax that I don't want. I went very soft at first, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, put it all over the entire thing. So I really hope that you guys like this one too. And again, I cannot wait to make these, but bigger. And I do have some fence board that I'm gonna try. So let me know in the comments if you guys are gonna try this one too. For this project, I'm using more of that pallet wood from the first project, and I did the same exact thing. I cut it down with the miter saw, and I am using the scrap plywood and attaching it to the back using the wood glue and a brad nail. So I am going to be making a pumpkin with this using that um, grapevine wreath that I got from the thrift store. And I know you can get the grapevine wreaths also at the Dollar Tree, and they may be more bendable or moldable so that you can get more of like an oblong shape. So I kind of want to see if I can find one like that at the Dollar Tree because I'd love to do one that's more, oval shaped than just um, circular. So I did a dry brush of white chalk paint on the entire front and sides of the pallet wood. And then I only had these burlap wreath leaves, and I wanted them to be green. I like the burlap wreaths, but the it kind of blended too much with the grapevine wreath, so that's why I wanted the green. So I did that, and then I had this scrap plywood pieces from my husband's shop, and I decided to use that for the stem instead of using, one of those spindle pieces, because I really am going to be wanting to make more of those other pumpkins from the previous project. So I wanted to save those spindles for that. But a spindle would be really, really cute on this project too, I think. So I'm just using Titebond wood glue. I don't really know if that's good. I read the back of the Titebond and it said it's great for crafts. So I figured since I'm attaching the grapevine wreath to wood, why not? So I did that, and then I used some hot glue for that immediate hold. And then the leaves, I tried to bend a little bit so that there was a little bit of movement. It didn't work very well because I hot glued like the entire backside down. But I did get some movement, and then I decided that I was going to make a bow, but I was going to try and do like, I don't know what this type of bow is called. Um, it's like just like a messy bow, and I really love how it turned out. So I'm using scrap fabric, and this fabric, well, this ribbon, I did get from Hobby Lobby, but the other scrap fabric that I'm using for this bow is actually from the next project that I will be showing you. So I had the scraps left over, and I figured it would look super cute with this bow because the colors go really well with this ribbon. And then I do have a little bit of raffia. I have raffia bows that I got from Hobby Lobby last year, and I had some left over. So I took the bow apart and I added the raffia also to this bow. And then I tie the center with a little bit of twine, and I hot glue it to the top of the pumpkin. And then the button that is in the center of the bow that I took off from the raffia bow, I added that back onto it. And I just love this project. I wanted to add some type of hanging hardware to the back of it. I just didn't do it for this video, but I plan on doing that as well. All right, so this last project is not 100% a scrap wood project, but I ended up using a little bit of scrap wood, so I decided to share it with you. I'm going to be making fabric pumpkins, and this is the material that I had at home. I really want to find some other fabric at the thrift store, but I am using my Cricut machine to cut out the pumpkins. So that wood pumpkin that I showed you, that's in the corner of this video, I did get from Hobby Lobby, and you could easily trace that on your fabric and cut it out. I just was like in a time crunch, and I decided to just grab some images of pumpkins that are in Cricut Design Space. I uploaded them and sized them to the size that I wanted, and I'm going to cut them on the different fabrics. But again, you can easily trace whatever size pumpkin that you have. If you have a wood cutout, or if you print your own pumpkin, then like from online, you size it to whatever size you want and then print it, and you can trace it that way as well. I was just trying to do more than a couple, and I thought my Cricut machine would be a lot easier. And I've actually never used the fabric um, mat or the fabric cutter on my Cricut machine. So I figured, you know what, this will be a first, and we'll see what happens. And it worked out great. I was very happy. So once I get all of them cut out, then I'm going to put them together. I do not sew, so I'm going to be using hot glue. Those are two different pumpkins that I did. I end up liking the bigger pumpkins versus the like that blue one that's wider. So I'm going to make more, but just do the other pumpkins. So I'm just going to use hot glue to attach most of it together, and then I'm going to end up stuffing the pumpkins with some pillow stuffing. So I do grab, I got this pillow from Walmart like 2 years ago for like $3. And I just used the stuffing from that pillow to stuff my fabric pieces. And I don't do it very often, so that's why I still have plenty in that pillow. But the fabric on the pillow is really, really cute too. So you can also use the fabric from the pillow for projects as well. Again, I haven't done that yet because I still have enough of that fabric or stuffing in there. So that's the pillow that I use. And originally, you can see I glued the stems together. And then when I was looking at them after I stuffed them all, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to add wood somehow to as the stems instead. And I end up having this pile of plywood. But before I get to that, because apparently I'm going out of order here, for these like taupe colored pumpkins, I decided to stamp fall on them just to add a little something extra to the pumpkins. For the yellow and the blue ones, I didn't. I just did it to these lighter colored ones. And I really think that they're so cute. But, anyways, back to this pile of scrap plywood that my husband had. He just cut them down into little pieces for me so that I could use them as stems for my fabric pumpkins. And I think that they turned out really cute. So I'm using the Dark and Decrepit to stain the pieces, and then I'm just going to hot glue them into place where the stems originally were that I cut out. I think these are so cute as bowl fillers, even, putting several on a tiered tray. You'll have to let me know what you guys think. I really hope you guys liked this video and you guys are ready for fall. I have plenty of other projects coming up. So give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Let me know your favorite in the comments, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.